Hey there! If your brain keeps working in the background on one thing, like how to improve my product metric, and even when it's fine, you are still looking for a way to turn fine into great, then this video is for you. Today we are skipping the very first stage on purpose, the moment when a product is just being designed from scratch. We are going to look at an already working product through the eyes of a game designer. That's someone who also doesn't sleep because of low retention and in between tasks keeps thinking about what else can be done with LTV. I've put together 5 concepts from game design. They create a different lens. You can use this lens to look at metrics in any digital product, not just games, and find growth points where classic product analysis doesn't give you new ideas. By the way, I recorded 10 videos for a private Telegram channel. Each one covers one game design topic. They show how a game designer looks at a product and how they work with it to improve product metrics. In those videos, I went much deeper into the topics from this video, plus I added 5 more. You can get access to that channel with this QR code or through the link in this video description. Videos are published on a schedule, 1-3 days, one video. Once all of them are published, you keep access to this channel forever. All right, here is my top 5 for today that's worth looking at to freshen up your view on creating and managing a product. Let's go. The first one, user psychology. Product analytics usually segments users by behavior: visit frequency, funnel depth, average check. Game design segments users first by their motivation. There are different approaches that create 2 very different product architectures. The basic tool is one of the models that divides players into categories based on their type of motivation that drives them. Such models exist for products too. They identify the main motivation types. The product architect's job is to think through how the product satisfies each of them. Any action in a product either satisfies one of these needs or ignores all of them. If a feature does not give the user what they want, they'll come back to the product only when they need to, without really getting into it, and definitely won't build a habit of using it regularly. That means potentially low engagement, low retention, low LTV. The principle of gamified system is to give each category of users a way to satisfy their needs. Motivation drives features, communication style with the user, UI, UX, and even the offer system design. If you don't keep all users types in focus, whole categories drop off, simply because there is no depth or triggers in the product to hook them. The easiest model to remember and to apply is the SDM, self-determination model. A lot of modern products use it. It highlights just 3 big global user motivation: autonomy, competence, and relativeness. Figure out how and in what way your product's users satisfy their needs, and you'll have way fewer problems with metrics. The second topic is FTUE and onboarding. FTUE, first-time user experience, is the time between installing the product and the first moment when the user gets real value. In game design, the goal of this time period is to give the player a quick win. The key moment in FTUE is the aha moment. That's when the player suddenly gets how to play. The principle of a quick first result or success is a great lens for non-game products too. FTUE is a part of player onboarding. One of the biggest game design mistakes is trying to explain everything at once and show everything at once. No game products do this too. Look at any SaaS product. They often have huge blocks of text explaining navigation elements, but text explanations and too much information at once overload the user's brain. So when explaining what and how to do things, you need to prioritize. The first focus is always on core loop functions. The core loop is always top priority. Other functions and features are introduced and presented when the user needs them, really needs them. Learning is always seen as a forced work, not as a part of the experience, and This is exactly where the biggest drop-off happens in any product, games or non-games. The working principle here is learning should not come before action. It should happen inside the first useful action. The user does not read instructions for the first step. They take the first step and the product explains the next step only after the first one is done and has given a result. This is contextual learning, just-in-time onboarding, as opposed to frontal learning, where everything is explained in one big block up front. The second principle is forced reduction of steps until the first value. A game designer always asks, what can be removed from the first 30 seconds without losing the core? In most non-game products, the answer is half of the current registration steps, profile setup, and interface explanation. Before we continue, please react to this video, leave me a comment, or share your own experience with applying game design in a non-game product or an experience from another industry. It will help me to grow the channel and maybe record videos more regularly. Thank you. The third topic is engagement loops. Core loop is the basic engagement loop, the smallest sequence of actions that a user repeats over and over. Action, result, new trigger to act. In games, you design it first before any other content because DAO and retention depend on it directly. In game design, there are at least 3 nested loops. Session loop is what happens during one session in the product. It usually takes minutes. Progression loop is what happens between sessions, hours and days, usually related to accumulation. Meta loop is long-term goals, weeks and months, usually tied to high-level goals beyond a single action. What non-game products could borrow to create depth that keeps using the product is having not just a session loop. Then the product creates reasons to come back. Tomorrow, after tomorrow, in a week. DAO and retention drop not because the product is useless, but because the second and the third loops are structurally missing. They weren't designed. A practical question to any product: what happens in the product between sessions when the user isn't opening the app? If the answer is nothing, there is no accumulation, no progress, no anticipation. The engagement loop breaks at the first level, and retention won't go above occasional, no matter how many push notifications you send. The next topic is progression. Progression should exist in any product. Progression is a system that creates and shows the cumulative effect of user actions. This system gradually pulls the user deeper, hooks them, builds a habit of using the product, and usually leads to good retention and LTV. The feeling of progression is the user's clear understanding that by using the products, they are getting better, more control over spending, better health, getting smarter, etc., etc. To create and straighten progression in products, you can use neuropsychology principles. You can implement milestones, celebrating first steps or small wins, progress bars, streaks like in Duolingo, badges, levels, tests and quests, and many other mechanics. And to reinforce the feeling of progression, you use rewards for achievements. The reward principles are the following one. First, you reward every new step, opened a new section in the product, did the first task, invited a friend, filled out the profile. Then rewards come for hard actions that require more effort. Over time, predictable rewards become boring and stop triggering dopamine from anticipation. So you need to add variable rewards, randomizers, chests with different probabilities, and so on. Variable rewards are the only type that keeps triggering dopamine consistently. If progression is not thought out in a product, it has weak retention potential, low retention, short sessions, no habit formation. Before the last concept, I just remind you that I recorded 10 videos on my top 10 game design concepts. They give product owners a way to look at working with metrics like a game designer. Also, I listed all 10 videos topics in the description of this video. You can get access to the private Telegram chat via the link in the description or the QR code on the screen. Moving on. Friction. Friction is any effort the product requires from the user before getting a result. The standard product approach is friction should be removed everywhere, always. So the user's journey is very smooth. Game design works differently. Friction is designed on purpose. Without effort, there is no dopamine release from overcoming obstacles. Useless friction is extra form fields, for example, confusing navigation, re-entering the same data. Intentional friction is designed to increase the perceived value of the result. One of the most famous examples is IKEA. They described by Norton, Mokon, and Early. I think that the user put their own work into it is valued higher than an identical thing they got with no effort, even if objectively they are the same. For non-game products, I recommend doing this carefully. The first principle, create friction only for getting added value. For example, friction in the form of a complicated UI is a path to user drop-off, affecting sessions, retention, MAU. But getting a temporary cashback boost for extra action in the product, that's additional benefit. The second principle for non-game products is friction in the main product cycle is a path to product collapse and a filtering experience. But friction in getting rewards, that's already a personal investment mechanic. In a non-game product, this is about customizing the product, building your own profile or dashboards. Any step where the user invests a little effort into personalization before getting a result. Removing this friction completely isn't always a metric boost. Sometimes it's a direct loss of perceived product value. The designer's task is not to eliminate friction entirely, but to split it into two types and remove the useless and harmful one. Conclusion. We covered 5 game design concepts that create a fresh lens on your product. This is one system, each next level builds on the previous one. Without the right user psychology model, onboarding teaches the wrong things and don't give any value. Without clear UX, engagement loops don't start because the user doesn't understand what happened after the action. Without progression and variable rewards, a habit doesn't form, no matter how many notifications the product sends. Game design is useful for non-game products, not because you need to turn everything into a game. It's useful because in 100 years of the gaming industry, it's the only discipline that deliberately designs not a task, but the behavior around the task, and measures results in the same metrics that you are responsible for. Drop-off, engagement, retention, ARPU, LTV, DAU, and so on. You know better than me. Now, please write in the comments whether you use the best practices or experience from other industries. If you get any additional results and value from it, let me know what you think in the comments. And don't forget, there is a private channel where I'm posting 10 videos over 10 days with breakdowns of game design concepts. Through them, you can find ideas to improve your product metrics. And if you want me to audit your product and find opportunities to improve its metrics, email me. And my mail is also in the video description. Bye. Stay in touch.